I hear you. We also have a democracy where, to be frank, Sarah Potion can ask whatever she wants.
Yeah, she said she's a magistrate. For her to discriminate.
She can ask any question we want. You don't get to tell her what she asks. Nobody gets to tell her what she asks.
She's what a shame that she's actually against Muslim women.
Martin Daubney found himself in a heated exchange with commentator Fahima Mohammed, this time over the issue of burqa bans. And yes, we've now reached a stage where even proposing measures to address extremist networks earns you the label of a far-right radical. It's telling, isn't it? The outrage always seems louder when it's about symbols, not about the safety of real British communities.
Well, firstly, what's just been said is completely contradiction, because firstly, it was said in Iran that women are terrorized. OK, and here it's been said that for wearing the burqa, they are the terrorists. So which one is it? And secondly, when it comes to Sarah, talking as a female MP for the first time, where she could have really raised issues with regards to domestic violence that is really on the rise right now, when it comes to, mental health in women's prisons and so many other issues, she picks on the European far-right nationalists and wants to copy them in British, not secular government.
There you have it. After everything this country has endured, we're now being branded as Europe's far-right nationalists. But to be fair, Fahima isn't entirely wrong this time. Sarah Potion, the new Reform MP, had a golden opportunity to go after the real crises, a surge in domestic violence, an NHS on the brink, and a government stumbling from one failure to the next. Not to mention the grooming gangs politicians still tiptoe around. Yet instead of tackling those pressing issues, she chose to focus on something peripheral, a distraction while the country bleeds. Yes, reform wants to stay relevant, and that's understandable. But Britain doesn't need more talking points. It needs courage, conviction, and real leadership.
Given the Prime Minister's desire to strengthen strategic alignment with our European neighbours, will he, in the interests of public safety, follow the lead of France, Denmark, Belgium and others and ban the burqa?
Yeah.
What should have been a decisive moment for reform has instead left the party appearing unsteady and the public questioning who is really in control. That said, there's still Fahima's controversial stance to unpack and the exchange that saw her effectively dismantled on live debate.
What this does highlight, though, and this is quite interesting, is that there's clearly a split in reform between people who do want some fairly radical measures and people who don't. And I think it's not the first time. I think the Rupert Lowe case indicates there were other examples of people who have maybe fallen out with Zia Yusuf on this issue. And I think, there's probably a big question to be asked within reform. What's your position on radical Islam? Where do you really stand on it? I noticed Nigel Farage has gone quiet on this subject of late. Why has he gone quiet? So I know it's not just a question for the government. I think it's a question for all the political parties. And I think it's notable that the Conservatives have been quite open on this subject, and the other parties want to be shying away from it right now. Individuals not, but on a collective level, I'm struggling to see where political parties are looking at this problem. And given we know it's a growing rather than diminishing problem, and one that's likely to be with us for some time, if you have the government and other prominent parties not dealing with it, voters are going to notice. And I think voters are going to start gravitating towards people who do highlight the problems rather than those who seek to repress conversation about them.
She painted herself into a corner, invoking democracy and British law as if freedom of expression only applies to her own community, not everyone else. Let's be clear, even if Sarah Potion sidestepped the major issues, her call for burqa bans wasn't entirely unexpected. In a nation grappling with rising crime, how can law and order be enforced when individuals can conceal their identities entirely? And this isn't just about burqas, it applies to balaclavas or any face-covering attire. We're running a country here, not staging a parade of masked vigilantes.
Are you saying that the electoral processes of France, Belgium,
Yes.
the Netherlands, Denmark, Austria, Switzerland, Bulgaria, Germany, Italy, Latvia, Norway, you're all calling them far-right extremist
No, the ones
nations?
that have gone for the ban, I've got the actual results here. All of them that called for the burqa were non-secularists. I mean, they were they were extremists. They were from the far right, like Geert Wilder, whatever his name is. And they were the ones that actually were calling for this. So it was those parties that Reform tries to say that they're not racist, they're not nationalist, but they're following suit. And that is completely against British law. If the bishops, can sit in the House of Lords, why can't a woman wearing a niqab just go down to Sainsbury's and do her shopping? They're not the threat. They are not the ones that are causing terrorism, as some people like to misrepresent. If it's happening in another country, it is not the British law here. We are not secularism here, a sense that we have certain rules for freedom of expression and freedom of religion.
And let's talk about these so-called unreasonable security concerns. Give me a break. What's unreasonable about simply wanting to know who is walking our streets? Then she has the gall to wield the woman card, preaching freedom of thought one moment, only to attack Sarah Pochin the next for proposing a solution that could actually serve the British public. Let's be frank, Fahima, of all people, has no business bending the law to fit her narrative. If that was her strongest argument, anyone with conviction could have dismantled it.
We also have a democracy where, to be frank, Sarah Pochin can ask whatever she wants.
Yeah, she said she's a magistrate for her to discriminate.
She can ask any question we want. You don't get to tell her what she asks. Nobody gets to tell her what she asks.
She's a free... What a shame that she's actually against Muslim women. She is.
She did not say she's against Muslim women.
By picking on a particular group. And at the end of the day, she says she's a magistrate who would not in court actually represent or speak to someone who's wearing a burqa. Do you know that she could be actually called in breach of judicial impartiality and equality laws for even saying that? Does she not know the laws?
Fahima, you're big on saying we shouldn't tell women what to wear. You're telling
my
Sarah...
body, my choice. Isn't that what we've been
You're
fighting
telling
for?
Sarah Pochin what she's allowed to think,
no,
what she's allowed to ask as a question.
She should be better of empowering women instead of breaking them down for unreasonable security issues. We have no gaps in the law when it comes to removing the hijab, removing the niqab, and having that, whether it's courts, whatever. So what she's talking about is actual racism, discrimination, and against a particular group. And whether she likes it or not, that's what it is. And
you don't win a debate by yelling over others like a toddler having a meltdown. And the idea of erasing identities, let's be honest, everyone knows exactly who's doing what, and the world sees it too. Cultural integration isn't a playground squabble. It's a serious issue demanding careful attention and a balanced approach. Even Reform hasn't perfected it yet. But Martin Daubney, he left no room for ambiguity. He cut straight through Fahima's hypocrisy, exposing her attempts to lecture MPs on British affairs as if she were the ultimate authority. Enough.